So, are you operating out of empathy or a God complex? I was very, very surprised to find out that I was actually operating with a God complex. And I thought it was empathy. So that's how I'm opening up. That's what I want to share. That's what I'm getting into. Man, there's so many layers to this. But let me start off with a backstory so that you guys can kind of understand how I got to this. It has always been extremely hard for me to say no. Extremely hard. If I felt like the other person's feelings were going to be hurt, if I felt like they were going to be sad or they were going to feel rejected, it would be really, really hard for me to say no, especially when it came to relationships. So if I was in a relationship with a guy and something in me, I would know that we weren't supposed to be together. I would know that it wasn't our destiny, but oh my God, the pressure of saying no, of saying, "Hey, can we talk? I don't think this is working for me," or "I can't continue to be in a relationship." Whatever the level of anxiety, like I would literally feel pressure, stress, tightness in my chest. I just bringing myself to say it was so hard. And let me just give a word to people who try to help other people. When you address an issue and the advice that you're giving does not deal with the reason the person is making the decision, it does not help the person overcome. So a lot of times, like I would reach out to my family, friends, and they would constantly tell me, "You care too much about what other people think. You care too much about what other people think." And maybe on some level, but that wasn't the root of the problem. Like that just wasn't the core issue for me. So, as much as I would try to apply what they were saying and I would try to coach myself and just say, like, don't care about what they think, don't care about what they think, that really wasn't helping me because that wasn't the reason it was so hard for me to say no. Having said all of that, let's go fast forward to the 90-day fast. In a 90-day fast, God revealed to me the reason it was so hard for me to say no. The reason I cared so much about hurting someone else's feelings. And the answer I got, I had to repent. I thought it was because of empathy. I thought it was because I had a big heart and it was 3 layers deep. My issue was 3 layers deep. And by the time I got down to the third layer, that's when the root of it, right? So it was like this was the first layer. Layer one, God peeled that back. And I'm gonna share all 3 layers with you. But layer one, God peeled back the first layer. And I was like, oh, I thought that was the answer. And then God went deeper and it was like layer two. And that was the second answer. And I'm like, oh, okay. I figured it out. And it was like, nope. God went to layer three, and layer three was the God complex. Oh my goodness. Let me break this down. So the root of it all, um, I would say the spinoff for me was rejection issues. So let's just go back. I remember one particular relationship in particular. I really, really liked this guy, but he didn't like me. And this happened during my formative years. I think I was like 17, 18 years old. So this is when you're starting to really make your space, you know what I mean? Kind of like feel your way in relationships and how to navigate relationships. A lot of the belief systems we have come from the conclusions we come to when we're teenagers, navigating crushes and all that other kind of stuff. But anyway, I really like this guy. Like to me, he was everything I ever dreamed of, everything I could ever pray for. But the feeling wasn't mutual. I internalized a lot of hurt from that. The conclusions I came to were not healthy. And I walked away with a lot of rejection issues. The best thing I could say, or the best way I could describe it, is I just came to the conclusion like, well, maybe I'm just not the type that that type of guy likes. And maybe I'm never going to end up being with the person that I really like. And what other crazy stuff was I thinking? Another thing that I was thinking was I'm never gonna let someone else feel as hurt as I feel, and maybe I was just being too superficial. And then that, I don't want to choose someone based on looks, or I don't want to reject someone based on looks because I don't want them to feel the pain that I felt. These were all of the toxic conclusions and the toxic thought process that I went through with that. So layer one that God revealed to me, He took me back to that place. He took me back to that heart sensitive place for me. And God revealed to me, you're projecting your hurt onto the person that you're trying to break up with or trying to say no to. So basically, what I was doing was, in my imagination, I would imagine that they were feeling as hurt as I felt back then. So, really, the pain that I was feeling was my pain all over again. I was really putting myself in their shoes, imagining in my mind. I didn't even realize I was doing this, but what I was doing was I was going back to that place of rejection for myself every time I had to tell someone no or break up with someone. And I would feel hurt all over again as if it was me. That was the first layer. So, the first layer was I was projecting my pain of rejection onto other people and assuming they were feeling the same level of rejection I felt back then. Truth be told, some of them probably didn't even care that much. Some of them maybe did, but the point is that was the first revelation during my 90-day fast, and I thought that was the end all be all. I thought I was cured, and I'm like, yes, I got it, and it got deeper. That wasn't it. Layer two. Layer two was in response to me thinking that they were feeling as hurt as I was feeling. The second thing I was doing, the second layer of the issue, was that I was stepping in trying to buffer their pain. So basically, I was kind of being like, you know what can I do? How can I avoid this person feeling bad? And the way I would do it is I would just stay in a relationship I didn't want to be in. It was for way too long. It was really hard for me to say no, or I would commit to something that I didn't want to do because I didn't want the person to feel as if they weren't supported. Um, and that, came back to that conversation where my family was just like, you care too much about what other people think. And here's the thing, it wasn't that I cared too much about what other people thought. That's why every time they said that, it didn't help. I cared too much about what other people felt. That's an empath thing. Everybody who's an empath is listening, like, yes, yes. I know bells just went off. It wasn't that I cared too much about what people thought. I cared too much about what people felt. That was the big aha moment for me. And then on that layer, still hanging out on layer 2, what I would do is I would try to buffer it. I would try to buffer it, right? What can I do? Um, I don't want them to feel bad. I don't want them to feel hurt. So let me stay in this relationship. Let me commit to this thing that I really don't want to do. Let me commit to whatever it is I'm committing to that's taking me off course from my destiny, from what I'm supposed to be focusing on. Let me and this brought me to layer number 3, which was the God complex layer. Layer number 3 was, no, I'm sorry, let me go back. Let me go back. Layer number 2, we're still on layer number 2. What God broke down to me was, He said, you are trying to step in and buffer their pain as if, as if I'm not going to take care of them as much as I take care of you. Whoa, that was big for me. God said, why are you acting as if you don't take care of them, they won't be taken care of? Why are you acting as if you don't hold their heart, if you don't see to their emotional state, I won't do it? Why are you acting as if you don't prevent them from heartbreak, I won't tend to them. I won't see to them. I won't see to their hurt. That was the second layer, right? And that's when we started to get into the complex thing. Because when I wrote in my journal, what God really had me personify was my internal conversation that I didn't even know I was having. Was this? This is the part that was heart wrenching for me. I could hear myself. I could hear my spirit saying, God, this person is going to be heartbroken if I break up with them, or this person is going to be heartbroken if I don't commit to whatever it is. And I do not trust you to make sure they're going to be okay. Because God, if I leave them to you, I don't know how long they're going to be hurt. I don't know how long it's going to take them to recover. I don't know how much they're going to be crying. And you may take too long to respond. You may take too long to make them feel better, or you may not make them feel better at all. So, Lord, I'm going to handle it because you are not going to take care of their heart and their emotions the way I would. Woo! That that was like a slap in the face. That had me just on my knees repenting because I never realized that's what I was doing. In essence, when you're sacrificing yourself, and that was the third layer. The third layer was the God complex. Because basically when I was doing that, I was sacrificing myself. I am not a worthy sacrifice for anyone. God is the only sacrifice. I was sacrificing myself. I was sacrificing the plan that God had for me to take care of someone else who was not even my responsibility. In life, we all will face or have faced rejection. It's not personal. Everyone is going to like someone who doesn't like them back. None of us can avoid that. All of us are going to want someone to do something for us, to commit to something that we can't commit to, right? And we're going to have to say no, and the other person is going to feel bad, or we're going to feel bad that the other person can do something for us. That is just the human experience. That's what that is. And it's not as if God did not foresee me or you saying no when he planned out the perfect plan for our lives. It is imperative that we say no so that we stay on track with our destiny. We can't say yes to everything and everyone because everything and everyone is not on our destiny track. So, no is a necessity. And saying yes and and as an act of sacrificing yourself to buffer someone else's feelings, in all actuality, is operating in a God complex. It's operating as if the answer that you have is better than the plan that God has for your life and for their life. That's a very dangerous place to operate in because, for one, when God was breaking this down to me, he's like, you're not even a worthy sacrifice. So while you're up here sacrificing who you're supposed to be with, who you're supposed to marry, what you're supposed to be doing, how you're supposed to be investing your time, while you're making sacrifices to try to buffer someone else's feelings and sacrificing the plan I have for you, that's not even your place. That's not your power or your authority. So stop operating as if you don't get off course, if you don't stop operating as if you have to date the wrong person and commit to stuff you're not supposed to be committing to and sacrifice your time to save someone else as if I didn't already save them. God was talking to me. He said, "What do you think?" God said, "Do you think that when I made the plan for your life that I didn't see that you were going to cross paths with this person and have to say no? Do you think that I didn't accommodate for that? Do you think I left them hanging? Do you think it caught me off guard and I was like, oh, shoot. I didn't know Shalomith was going to say no to him. Man, I forgot to take care of him." Or, "Oh, I didn't know Shalomith was going to say she couldn't commit to that. Oh, shoot, I forgot to accommodate for that. Man, Shalomith, can you step in and handle that for me? Because their life going to be jacked up. Because when I made this perfect plan for you, I did not foresee you telling them that you couldn't commit to this, or I did not foresee you telling him that you couldn't date him or be in a relationship with him. The arrogance of it. So, to my empaths, to people who you're just, it's really, really hard for you to say no if this resonates with you, I challenge you to ask yourself, is it hard for you to say no because you're projecting your pain of rejection onto the other person? Are you assuming that they feel as bad as you felt when you were told no? Are you doing that? If you are, stop it. The second thing, are you stepping in and playing savior where you don't have jurisdiction to play savior? Are you sacrificing yourself, your destiny, who you're supposed to be with, to buffer someone else's feelings, to stop someone else from feeling hurt, to stop someone else from feeling heartbroken? Are you offering yourself as a sacrifice to stop someone else from feeling pain? Because if you are, you're that's not empathy. That's operating in a God complex. And you don't have the authority to operate in that space. And the only thing that happens as a result of us, the only thing that happened as a result of me operating in that space every time I did is that I made a mess of my life and I made a mess of theirs. I was outside of destiny and they were outside of destiny. Yes, their feelings may be hurt, but that's between them and God. You don't know what lesson God is teaching them through this process of rejection. Just like I didn't know what lesson or what the path was that God had set out for them. And I was totally out of place for interfering with it. The same way God has built me up and God has taught me different things and God has built my character through rejection, through saying no, through people not being able to commit. Why would I don't understand. As I'm thinking, I don't even know why I assumed that God wasn't doing the same thing for them. But I thank God because, man, when God revealed that to me, there was such freedom. I had such a relief of obligation. It was like I felt empowered to say no for the first time. I felt like it was the right thing to do. Because even when I would say no, I would still struggle with it and I would feel like it was just hard to do. But when God showed me the ugliness of it, and when He showed me the root of it, and when He showed me the lack of trust that I had in Him to tend to and to mend the hearts of everyone involved in the situation, it allowed me to step back. I still don't like hurting anyone's feelings and I still operate in grace. So I'm not saying to be callous and just to not have tact and to be harsh. It's never okay to be harsh with people, right? You handle people with care, but you do have to sometimes pull off the band-aid. Like sometimes you got to rip the cord. You have to say, you don't have to be dogmatic. Like, yeah, this isn't a destiny. This isn't who I'm. You're not who I'm supposed to be with, and I'm breaking up with you. And don't call me no more and lose my number. I'm not saying that's the execution, right? But you do have to muster up the courage and the personal responsibility and a responsibility to your destiny, your calling, and who God has for you to say, hey, you know what? I know this is a difficult conversation to have, but I can no longer continue in this relationship. It's just not the path that I'm supposed to be on, or it's just not what I feel God has called me to. I wish you well, but I can't continue to do this. That's you know what I mean? And you're still going to feel and have emotion for it. But when you understand and you trust that God is taking care of them just as much as He's taking care of you, and not only is God taking care of them, it's your responsibility to stick to your destiny. It's your responsibility to stick to the gift of the relationship God has for you. It's your responsibility and your obligation to protect your time and not say yes to every obligation. So, that is the second lesson that I learned on my 90-day fast. And woo wee, that one was a biggie. That one was, oh my God, that was a biggie. It was so relieving. It just, it was so empowering. I can say no now. You know what I mean? Like I feel more empowered to say no. And sometimes it's still a little bit uncomfortable, but I just go back in my mind and I'm just like, hey, don't do that. Don't operate in the God complex. Don't do it. It's not your responsibility. You just making a mess. And sometimes I have to talk to myself. God got him. God got him. God is in control. I'm not the sacrifice. I'm not a worthy sacrifice. I'm not supposed to be sacrificing my time. God is the only sacrifice. Jesus is the only sacrifice, not me, not my destiny, not the plan God put in place for me. God is perfect. God's plan is perfect. God's plan for everyone is perfect, right? So stay the course, protect your time, sever relationships that you know you shouldn't be in, gather the courage and the sense of urgency to break up with someone. If you're in a relationship and you know you're not supposed to be in that relationship and you've just been afraid to break up because you're afraid you're going to hurt the other person, break up. If you know you don't have the time to do something and someone asks a favor, protect your time, right? Don't turn your back on the gift God has given you that's called your life. Don't reject it. Because see, when you try to play fix it, and when you try to um operate where you don't have authority to operate, basically you're like laying down the plan. You're turning your back on the plan that God has for you. You're turning your back on the plan that He has for who you're supposed to marry. You're turning your back on the plan in terms of how you're supposed to be investing your time. You're saying no to the destiny. You're saying no to the path when you can't say no to what's not for you. When you're saying yes to who is not for you, you are by default saying no to who is for you. When you're saying yes to things that you're not supposed to be committing yourself to, you're saying no to the things you are supposed to be investing your time in. So be blessed. Say no. Remember, you are not the sacrifice. God is. Remember, God is taking care of them. They are in good hands, not yours. Your hands will never be better than God's hands and God's plans for them and you. So I hope this gives you the courage. I hope this gives you the fire in your belly to break up with whoever you need to break up with, to say no to whatever commitments you need to say no to, and to cherish and protect your destiny, protect your time, and protect who you enter into a relationship with. I love you. Until next week with lesson 3. I told y'all these lessons were like fire. They totally changed my life. I hope they change yours too. But that concludes this lesson. And until next Tuesday at 8 o'clock, love you and be blessed.